Well, Rich, are you ready to talk about a franchise revival, nostalgia-driven soft reboot that doesn't suck?
I know!
I just got done watching the first season of Picard. Have you seen the show?
I f***ing hate you. Welcome to Jay and Rich! Talk about a streaming exclusive TV show, episode number 2!
Yeah, we could talk about The Boys Season 2, but they're releasing episodes weekly.
I know, I was so disappointed when I heard The Boys 2 is out. Oh,
yeah.
No, it's not really out yet.
Yeah, it's disappointing, but it's also, like, people are review bombing it now and giving it all, like, 1-star reviews.
For that reason?
For that reason.
Interesting.
Which is really, really lame. I can understand being disappointed, but...
Yeah.
That's pretty stupid.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, the weekly format sucks.
Yes, as it does for most shows now. We're past this.
We're in a new era. Is the term TV show dead?
It's not just for lack of an alternate term. You just call it, it's a TV show. It's on my TV.
Are we going to just start calling these things just series?
I guess.
Yeah.
It'll still be called a TV show until our generation dies off.
Well, that's going to happen soon.
Not soon enough.
Look. It's the old age or coronavirus. We're goners.
Okay, good.
Hey, where you going, come in?
Oh, I didn't know you guys were trying to buy beer.
Hey! Watch your car, man.
It's a really pleasant surprise, isn't it?
Yeah, well, and we're talking about it now because a lot of people are only just now discovering it because it was a YouTube Premium show, formerly YouTube Red. So if you tried to recommend it to somebody, you're like, hey, you should watch the show Cobra Kai. And they're like, oh, is it on Netflix? No. Is it on Amazon? No. And they say, oh, it's on YouTube Red. And then their eyes just glaze over and they stop talking to you.
I'm going to defend YouTube Red. I know ad blockers are a thing, but the reason I got YouTube Red at the time, and I got it before Cobra Kai, you know what? I didn't mind guilt-free, ad-free videos on YouTube.
Yes.
I don't want to sound like I'm shilling for YouTube Red. The only reason I'm bringing that up is because I did not get YouTube Premium for Cobra Kai.
Right. Me either. And I don't think I've watched a single other YouTube original program outside of Cobra Kai.
Yeah. But I mean, my reaction to like, here's the Karate Kid new reboot. And I'm like, the fuck do I give a shit about the Karate Kid for?
Yeah. It's actually kind of good that it premiered on YouTube Premium because your expectations are so low that it was a pleasant... I mean, it's a good show, but it was a pleasant surprise from like, oh, direct to YouTube Karate Kid revival?
Because there's one franchise I don't give a shit about, or one franchise that didn't even need to be a franchise. It's the Karate Kid. My history with the Karate Kid was, I saw the original when I was young. It was good. I saw the second one. I was done.
Yes.
I haven't seen a single Karate Kid film past the Karate Kid 2.
Well, I was going to say there's only 2, but there's 3. Because then there's part 3, there's the next Karate Kid with Hilary Swank, and then there's the Will Smith Son reboot with Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
I watched the first season of Cobra Kai without having seen any Karate Kid movies.
Really? Not even the first one?
Not even the first one. But I mean, it's one of those movies that is, the whole movie just through cultural osmosis.
Yeah.
So it's like, I know Cobra Kai, I know Sweep the Leg,
Put him in a body bag.
Wax on, wax off. I knew the whole movie. And so now after finishing the second season, I went back and watched all the movies, just for context's sake. And after the first movie, I was like, that was good. I didn't need to watch it. It's just one of those movies. You know the whole fucking thing.
Yeah.
So going into the series, I had no real expectations. I just kind of watched it just to see what like a YouTube original could be, like one that feels more like a show. Because a lot of that YouTube original stuff looks like just other YouTube videos. You know, I'm not even sure why they're premium or whatever. But within the first episode, I was like, this is really good.
The first episode hooked me. Because, like, I put it on as a lark. Because I had YouTube Red, and it's like, well, I don't know, that's all this hype. I'll check it out. And the first thing the show did that is kind of amazing to me is how quickly it rehabilitated the character of Johnny Lawrence.
Yes.
When I was a kid and I watched the original Karate Kid, he was the biggest asshole on the face of the earth.
Well, he's the quintessential 80s movie bully.
Yes.
And that's whenever people talk about, and that's kind of like, because the show isn't brilliant, it's not deep or anything, but what it does that's really interesting is, it recontextualizes the 80s movie bully. And that's embodied in the Johnny Lawrence character, but every 80s movie had that, the generic one-dimensional bully.
What are you looking at, butthead?
And it got increasingly more absurd as the decade went along. You haven't seen Karate Kid 3, right?
Doesn't Kreese hire a CIA guy to take out Danny?
No, not exactly. But all the villains in that movie are so absurd they feel like they're out of a spoof movie. But what happens is, it turns out, and they kind of ignore this on the new show, Cobra Kai is not just like a karate dojo that was run by Kreese.
Oh no!
It's a karate school owned by a multi-millionaire that also runs all these big industrial companies and stuff. And when he finds out that Cobra Kai lost the karate tournament in the first movie, his life's ambition is to get revenge on this child that beat a Cobra Kai student. And so the whole movie, it's like a Looney Tunes thing. He's like the Wile E. Coyote. It is so insanely stupid that it's actually worth watching. It's so bad.
Oh, God.
I was actually shocked at how bad it was.
When I'm finished with that kid, he'll be begging me to be his teacher. And you know what he's gonna learn from me? Pain in every part of his body and fear in every part of his mind.
And it's just because you always think, in the first movie, it's it's just this Kreese guy, it's his dojo or whatever.
Yeah.
So they kind of go back to that with the new series.
Yeah.
But that idea, the bully, and that's something that I know has kind of been a tongue-in-cheek sort of fan theory, is the idea that Johnny Lawrence was actually the victim in the original movie, and Daniel is the aggressor, because he's the one that's constantly antagonizing him.
Yeah.
Even when they back off. And so to take that and kind of flesh it out into an actual show and make everybody feel like real characters is pretty impressive.
Yeah, yeah. They managed to make Johnny likable in 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. That first episode of Cobra Kai, if you do nothing else, check it out. The first episode is amazing.
It's a little absurd that so many characters on the show, their entire life has kind of been... The defining moment in all their lives is this karate championship that they had when they were children.
That's the Al Bundy. That's a thing that happens. It doesn't happen to everybody.
That's true. It works for Johnny Lawrence, his character, but then Daniel...
Less so for Danny.
Less so for Daniel's son, and definitely less so for Kreese, who they introduced... Well, at the very end of the first season, but he's a primary character in the second season.
Yeah.
It's why does he care about this shit so much?
To be fair, I think he's a psychopath. I think, I don't know the actor's name.
Who plays Kreese?
Yeah.
Martin Cove.
Said in his head the backstory for the character is that he's a Vietnam vet who couldn't handle losing the Vietnam War.
Okay.
And so he cannot tolerate losing in any fashion anymore, even when it comes to a stupid little karate dojo.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what shit you went through back then, but these are good kids, and they don't need to relive our mistakes.
The second season in general isn't as good.
No.
I think, though, in the first season, I love most of the kids. Miguel is great.
Yeah. Well, that's something else the show does, is it introduces... Because it's the new trend of soft reboots, which I guess kind of started with The Force Awakens, where it's you have your legacy characters and they kind of usher in the new characters, these younger people. And in this, you introduce the two kids and you're like, okay, this is going to be Johnny Lawrence and this is going to be Danielson.
All over again.
But then they shake it up a little bit and they keep it interesting.
It's remixed a bit because we focus on the Cobra Kai faction.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think Miguel and Johnny just have a really good relationship where they're both kind of improving each other.
Yeah.
Like Johnny, he's a dick, but he's a likable dick, and we want to see him become a better person.
Yeah, he's the anchor of the entire show.
Yeah, and Miguel is kind of just facilitating this. At the same time, Johnny is kind of mentoring Miguel and giving him confidence.
Right.
The problem, I guess we're jumping into the second season a bit.
Sure.
Second season just kind of fails in some degree for me just because it becomes less about that relationship, which is kind of the heart of season one.
Yeah.
And more about Johnny's dojo versus Danny's dojo.
Yeah.
It turns into the West Side Story.
Well, the other thing too is it introduces lots of little teenage melodrama.
Yeah.
And the real the real villain of the entire series is karate. Because anytime any of the characters are on the verge of understanding each other or having some sort of personal breakthrough, a silly karate fight breaks out and all the drama is just reset. Which is kind of amusing. There's an aspect of the show that is sort of unintentionally funny. It's a good show in general, but there are these kind of moments that a lot of times it's a very lighthearted show, but when it tries to get like really serious, it tends to come off a little silly.
It's hard to believe that modern teenagers would take karate that seriously.
Yeah.
And
It makes sense that someone like Johnny Lawrence would.
Yes.
Because he's that classic, like, best of the worst filmmaker that we always talk about, who just thinks he's a badass. And karate is badass. So if you open up a karate dojo, you're going to be the ultimate badass. And that's where a lot of the humor from the show comes from, is, yeah, that, like I said, the kind of generational difference between the way he views things and the way the younger characters do.
One of the big themes is fathers and sons.
Yeah.
Because Miguel is Johnny's replacement son. Because Johnny really fucked up raising Robbie.
Yes. You kind of forget that Robbie is his real son for a lot, because they barely bring it up, especially in the second season. It happens so infrequently that when there is some mention of it, it's like, oh yeah, like I just kind of forgot.
And then Danny starts raising Robbie like a son.
Mm-hmm. Parental figures, like Kreese was, I guess, kind of that for Johnny. Lots of that going on, and it's all pretty well done. But then everybody breaks out in karate fights. That second season, the end of the second season, the big school fight that goes on forever is funny. It's entertaining, but it's pretty ridiculous.
It kind of breaks your suspension of disbelief that in a really nice school, this rival karate dojos are going to break out into a school-wide fight.
And it's not going to be broken up immediately.
I hate... Oh, God, I don't remember his name, Who's that new character in season 2, the adult that joins Cobra Kai?
Oh, funny fat bearded man.
Funny fat bearded man who's not funny?
That's a complete flat line.
Cringe fail.
Yes. I don't even know why he shows up in one episode just working at the hardware store. I was like, oh, okay. It's like a one-off character in that scene.
Yeah.
Because he's like, 80s, because Johnny's wearing, like, is it like a Metallica shirt or something?
Something like that.
And he's like, yeah, 80s, best decade. And then he mentions that he was born in like 85, so he would have almost no memory of the 80s. It's like, that's funny, because everybody's all about the 80s nostalgia now.
The nostalgia references? Because they're in there.
They're in there. And for someone like me that had never seen the movies, you know, it wasn't never like, I never felt lost. Like, oh, I don't know what they're referencing, so I don't get this scene.
Yeah.
Frequently, they show little flashbacks to the first movie. Like in the second season when Johnny goes off with the other Cobra Kai that he grew up with, and you see a little flashback to all of them. So it's like, okay, I know who these characters are. The scene isn't affecting me in any way. Because they were like one-dimensional villains in the first movie anyway. So it's not like, oh, this lovely reunion of all these characters.
Well, you did notice at the end of that, right? He ends up in a body bag.
Oh, you know what? I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Get him a body bag! Yeah!
If that's another complaint, I like the character of Johnny, the way he's written on the show. William Zabka, not the greatest actor, not a lot of range. You can't recast that part because he's the guy, of course.
Yeah.
But especially in like the first season, I feel like in the second season, you know, they'd worked with it for a while, so they kind of knew how to write him. But in the first season, you almost need someone who's a little more cocky, a little more arrogant.
He might not be like great in general, but I think he's great in this show.
He works for the parts.
Yeah.
And like I said, in the second season, I think they write more with him in mind than they probably did in the first season.
He's more likable than Danny, but that's kind of by design.
Yeah. I think that's one of the reasons I never made a point of seeing the Karate Kid movies. I think I have like an unnatural dislike of Ralph Macchio.
Yeah?
I don't know why. Something about him. I don't like him. And in this show, he's kind of unlikable.
Isn't that funny? We all have actors that we just dislike on principle for no good reason.
There's something about him.
I've just learned you hate Ralph Macchio.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing you'll get out of Karate Kid 3. Daniel is so annoying in that movie. He's awful in that movie. Like the way he's written and the performance. And it's funny because it's only supposed to take place like 9 months after the first movie. Yeah. But it's like shot in like 1989 and he suddenly looks like a 30-year-old man.
He's he's not likable in this.
Well, they play that up though. He's like a sleazy used car salesman, and that's fun too. That kind of shift in focus of the two, the bully and the hero from the original Karate Kid.
The role reversal.
Yeah.
Because Johnny Lawrence was the rich kid in the original.
Yeah.
And then we find out that all of his money came from his stepdad, who they hate each other. It was another father-son relationship that has broken down.
Yes.
And then now Danny, he has a successful car dealership, and now he's the rich boy. And I don't know. I think after the show was a success, he wanted like a bigger part. I don't know. It seems like he's all over season 2. And he wasn't that prominent in season 1.
He was used just enough in season 1 because the focus was on Johnny.
Yeah.
And Miguel, his relationship with Miguel. So yeah, I mean, maybe they just wanted to expand the world of the show, but
50% of season 2 is Miyagi-Do.
Yes.
And they're insufferable. Miyagi-Do and his fucking Zen bullshit, while also being an obnoxious used car salesman, is utterly grating.
I didn't find it grating, but it's definitely, one's his daughter, and they're just like, they are not interesting at all.
No.
There's her, there's kind of the bad girl, there's like a little love triangle going on.
The snooty girls. I like Aisha. She's the Cobra Kai girl, the bigger one.
Yeah, she's good. They don't give her enough to do.
No.
Because they had to focus on this boring love triangle. Yeah, the teenage, and obviously we're not the target audience for that stuff, but I can see like a younger person that maybe isn't even familiar with the Karate Kid movies. That's the stuff that they're more interested on this show. So it's a good balance, a little something for everybody without shutting out old fans.
Yeah.
Don't you feel good knowing that for a very long time we don't have to talk about Star Wars?
You say that. It always it's like Michael Myers, Jay. Star Wars always gets back up when you think it's dead, and it's going to keep coming at you.
And it gets increasingly worse and more convoluted?
Yes.
Okay. And that's another thing going for Cobra Kai is like nobody was expecting a Karate Kid revival. Nobody asked for it. And so it kind of has, I mean, that's a theme of the original movie and the show is the kind of the underdog. And the show kind of is that because it's like nobody had any expectations for this thing. Nobody really wanted it. It just sort of came into existence and it's like, oh, it's pretty good.
It's kind of a stealth franchise. Mm-hmm. It's had so many reboots and they've all been so forgettable.
Yeah.
You don't remember they existed.
Yeah, the next Karate Kid came and went.
I basically forgotten about that one.
Yeah.
And
then, the Will Smith movie.
Nobody saw it.
No, people saw it. I think it did okay.
Did it?
But it's one of those movies that, like, it did pretty good, and then nobody talks about it a month later.
Yeah.
Like the Robocop remake. Hey, it wasn't as terrible as we expected it to be. And then everybody just goes on with their lives and never thinks of it again.
But this is good.
Yeah, this is pretty good. The first season's really strong. The second season, not as strong. But it has some very silly karate fights that are fun.
Put one of those hash browns at the end, like hash brown Team Cobra Kai or something. And then send it to the internet.
I know Netflix just picked it up. What I'll say is I think it's only got one season left.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's good.
I think they need to wrap it up. We got one season. Johnny and Danny need to become friends.
Yes.
Finally. 'Cause they had two really good episodes where they almost kind of became buddies.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too. Is I like about the show is that there are no, aside from Kreese, there are no villains.
Yeah.
Most of the show is just characters miscommunicating, which is nice. Especially, that's not the kind of thing that's going to appeal to people that live their lives on Twitter, where anyone that they have a slight disagreement with is an evil monster. But that gray area of, a lot of the drama stems from just miscommunication.
Well, that's the big breakaway from this show. Like the previous ones, like Danny is clearly the hero, Johnny was clearly the bully.
Yeah.
This show loves the gray area.
Mm-hmm. It's like, the 80s bully is the most sympathetic character on the show now. A little redemption.
It's an interesting change of pace.
Yes. They can only do one more season because they're going to run out of things to mine from the original movies. After watching the movies, after seeing the 2 seasons of it, it's like everything is referenced. There's the little paddle thing that's in the second movie. They pull that out at one point.
The date Miguel goes on is the same place that Danny went on a date with Elizabeth Shue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's at the end of the second season. They tease the return of Elizabeth Shue. So once she's involved in season 3, there'll be some sort of love triangle drama. Once you get that out of the way, there's really nothing else to do.
But they could bring back the villain from Karate Kid 3.
You think this is the end of it all, man? I'm gonna open Cobra Kai dojos all over this valley. From now on, when people say karate around here, all they'll mean is Cobra Kai karate. John Kreese's karate.
They should bring that guy back.
I'm gonna check this out now.
The egomaniacal multimillionaire that owns all these big corporations, but also owns one little karate dojo.
If it's that schlocky, I'll be very curious to see if they ever do reference it.
They kind of do in this season. At one point, Daniel mentions, like, I briefly went to Cobra Kai. I briefly became a Cobra Kai.
Yeah, that's right, they do.
But it's sort of retrofitting it because he didn't know he was a part of Cobra Kai. He didn't know that the multimillionaire was secretly in cahoots with Kreese. It's so stupid. It's amazingly stupid.
Okay, this is proof. You don't need to love the original movies to enjoy Cobra Kai.
No, absolutely not. I had never even seen them. But like I said, that you know everything about it, and you certainly know the dynamic of the bully, and so to see that upended is refreshing and fun.
Yeah.
Now what do we do?
We get coronavirus and die.